side, but you never know what pile of crap it took in order to make it that green. This is the predicament that Leon Rose and James Dolan have found themselves in by firing Tom Thibodeau. You can be upset all you want. I get it. You had a squad that was filled with pretty good stars on it that took you all the way to the conference finals this year, the first time in 25 years, I might add. And yet they fell apart on the big stage to the Pacers. Good luck to them against OKC. Not going to go very far. But the Knicks themselves have a problem, and it's not the players on the court. Yeah, you can call out the defense, you can call out the lack of depth, which is really just aging veterans and late round draft picks. But this team was put together before the very first day of the regular season. And no matter what you want to say about Tom Thibodeau, Tibbs did what he had to do in order to make this squad the way it was. Now you can complain all you want that hey they had a negative net rating, they were poor on defense, they really didn't stick to a game plan, there was no depth. Okay, great, I get it. Blame the front office. Blame Leon Rose for that. That's not his fault. It's not Tibbs' fault that every rose has its thorn. That's Leon's. But to fire Tom Thibodeau for the shortcomings of Leon Rose and James Dolan not opening up the purse strings enough, that's not Tibbs' fault. Tibbs did more in 5 regular seasons than the previous 5 head coaches combined the 8 years prior before he got there. In the 8 years before Tibbs got there, between Woodson, Fisher, Rambis, Hornacek, Fizdale, Mike Miller, all of those coaches had a combined 238 regular season wins. Tibbs did that in a little more than half the time, and he fell shy of 8 wins of that. So 226 regular season wins. Again, I ask you, what was it that Tom Thibodeau did wrong? You can blame, you can be upset at the roster, you can be upset at the play on the court. I get it. Okay, you know what? Let's put some blame on Tibbs for that. But again, where's the depth? You can only complain so much about a team and its depth when it really has nothing to do with the head coach as to whether or not the depth exists or not. Do you want Tibbs to play with depth and play the aging veterans on the bench? Or do you want Tibbs to go balls out in order to get the most out of his players to get them to where they got to for the first time in 25 years? You tell me. Guys, Manny's back. We're back again. This is your Friday Junior edition of Box Scores and Bourbon. Manny, let's cheers ourselves in. Ooh, wow, okay.
Cheers, JB. A little
Wow.
smoky whiskey.
You go to Disney Place and then look, you're just all fancy now.
Oh yeah, I need to rock the. Hang on, the memorabilia. You'll love this one, JB. There you go.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it. Uh, how was Disney Town?
Oh man, I tell you, I've never. My watch didn't know what was going on. It was like, did you change your lifestyle? Why are you walking 20 miles every day? What's going on with your life right now? For a week straight, it was. When they say it's the happiest place on earth, they don't tell you that you're going to be miserable while being at the happiest place on earth. But it was a good
Well,
time.
because you got
Always
to
a
be
good time.
insane in order to enjoy it. They ought to call the
Exactly.
place Shutter Island, and just
Yeah.
that's honestly what they should call it.
It's
Because
so
I
much,
can only
so much
imagine being
walking.
somewhere else the entire time I'm there.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah. But it was fun. We had a great time. We hit Universal, we hit Disney World. We had a great time with the family. Spent
yeah,
a lot of money. Florida prices on everything. But we're back. We're back to the
yeah.
routine of life. Settle
Nice.
back in. I got a little bit of a tan going, and I'm perfectly ready to talk about these NBA finals that have kicked off as of what 30 minutes ago.
30 minutes ago, yes. Yeah. And as I already alluded to, gave a preview to what my thoughts were on this series. I can see this being no worse than a gentleman's sweep for OKC.
Yeah, that's. I have to lean a little bit towards that too. It just seems like Oklahoma is so ready for the moment, and I just for the respect of what the Pacers have done because it's nothing short of impressive the year that they've had the way that they took on the playoffs. But I wouldn't be surprised if they even if got swept, a gentleman's sweep more likely. But it's giving me that kind of like you're not gonna match up really well with Oklahoma right now. There's just I don't know. Maybe I just disrespect the Pacers because I don't know them that well. But it just feels like the matchup is not very favorable for them to for these finals right now.
Well, I'm interested to hear why you think that. Putting aside your lack of knowledge for the Pacers, which I think everyone in
Nobody has a
in
lack of knowledge.
everyone not in the Midwest who watched the middle
Yeah.
for 8 years realized that maybe the Pacers never actually went through a Sixers like process. They just kept chugging along,
Yeah.
and bringing in these pieces via trade. But there's there is an aspect of this series where I feel like Indiana is they are they're like a baby snake. Okay. You get a baby snake out there, he's all excited, he's in the wilderness, he's like, oh sweet, great, this is awesome. Tall blades of grass. What is that? An ankle? I'm just gonna go chomp on it. Real fast and furious like. Here comes the diesel bite. And it ends up killing a man because it has no idea how to control its venom.
Oh,
These pacers are ones where they move so fast. They move at a pace that is so quick. But they don't understand how to like body control. They don't understand how to control themselves, and it
yeah.
gets them into trouble. It got them in trouble
True.
in the first quarter of this game. It
Yeah.
it it gets them in trouble way too often.
Hmm.
And people who sit there and say, "Oh no, look, they almost, the Knicks almost had a chance." Well, the Knicks had just as much of a chance coming back, partly attributed to the fact that Indiana goes too fast and they make too many mistakes. They
Yeah.
don't know how to just hone that in. They're so
Hmm.
excited to be there,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
granted, their parts are greater than the whole. I mean, they have great pieces there, and
yeah.
they seem to work together. But and then that's just depending on whatever matchups you have. But when you don't understand and you go out there and you're all pumped up and excited, you're like
Uh-huh.
Billy Bob on 2 bottles of maple syrup, and you go out there and have a heart attack after you're hiking the ball. Then yeah, I mean that could be a problem. And
Hmm.
so I think, and the way OKC responds, OKC has so much of the element of refinement, I'd like to say. They OKC seems to their way of ball seems to be to allow the other team to make their mistakes. We're
Hmm.
gonna let you go out there. We're gonna let you make your mistakes, and then we're gonna come in and we're gonna
Yeah.
do this thing. It's kind of
Right.
like they kind of remind me of the Buffalo Bills. The Bills don't come at you fast and furious. It seems they just let the other team make their mistakes, and
Yeah.
then they will settle in, and then
Well,
they
it.
will do their style of ball.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, you can say compare them to the Chiefs too. Like the Chiefs stick around even when you think they're out of a game. They stick around and kind of like, find a way to win at the end. That's kind of the way that the Thunder have been operating. But you asked me why my feelings on why I feel bad about this matchup for the Pacers. I have two different reasons why. One is their path to the finals. And it was an impressive path, and they deserve to be at the finals because they beat the teams that were in front of them. But if you
Yeah,
go back and analyze what teams they played the Bucks in the first round, which was a injured Bucks, where they all really the only thing the Bucks had going for them was Giannis, and Giannis tried his best to keep that the Bucks in that series. But they played the depleted Bucks, and then
hmm
they played the injury plagued Cavaliers, and then they maybe you could say the best challenge they had was the Knicks, but Knicks didn't like your opener referenced. They didn't have the depth to keep up with the team, And now, really, like the Oklahoma City Thunder that they're matching up against now is completely opposite of that. They're healthy, they have depth, they have a good system in place as far as the type of ball they
Hmm.
want to play. So just I think they are just not well equipped to prepare. They're not like prepared through these play. They haven't prepared through these playoffs for this type of matchup. They haven't had the similar experience for this type of matchup against the Thunder. That's point one. Point two being that the Pacers have been taking advantage of playing very fast basketball all every series. Like their thing has been go push the court, rebound, whatever. Like you push the court, you move fast, you play not nonstop. They
Yeah.
they were through the regular season, I think into the playoffs too. They were second in like the pace of game that they as far as how fast they played, which kind of matched up really bad for the way that the other teams that they were playing uh, were built. The Bucks aren't really built to play fastball. The Knicks weren't really built
Yeah.
to play fastball. They were more strategic, more like control the pace of the game. The Cavaliers, you can say, had to come somewhat of a fast pace, but again, they were injured, so it wasn't even a true representation of what the Cavaliers could play like. Oklahoma City was ranked number one in
Hmm.
pace of play as far as the speed that they play. And if you watch their series, they are going at it they're running up and down the court nonstop every single game. Like if the
Yeah.
Pacers are thinking that their fast speed is going to be an advantage for them because that's how they've played every other team in these playoffs, the
Yeah.
OKC is like, yeah, bring it on. We know exactly
Hmm.
how to play fastball because that's all we've ever been doing. Like you're not going to play this fastball thing and outperform us with speed because that's how they got to where they are now. So I think that alone is going to also catch up to them because I think the Pacers are going to have to figure out a completely different strategy to have a chance with Oklahoma that maybe they're not going to be well equipped to be able to handle like a change of strategy in these finals before it's too late. And I mean, just looking at game one as we're talking now, it's already starting to look a little bit like that it's going in that direction. Oklahoma City's
Yeah.
playing fast, they're shooting threes, and
Yeah.
I don't know if the
Hmm.
Pacers can keep up with that speed. They know
Yeah.
how to play it, but I don't know if they know how to defend fast speed. Is my thing.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting because Indiana was able to get away with having such a fast-paced game against a Nick team that if you were able to wear them out, no one was coming off the bench to help relieve them.
Yep.
And if Jalen or Cat were on the bench, they were on the bench for maybe 5 minutes, and then they had to come right back in there,
Yep.
all juiced up, ready to go, and hopefully be able to be, just you know, uh, you know, green powered up,
Hmm.
and with OKC, it's a completely different story because not only is this a starting five that works so well together, this is also a bench that is pretty well stocked.
Hmm.
I mean, when you have a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein, who's your backup center, you got Alex Caruso on the bench, you got Isaiah Joe on the bench, you got Aaron Wiggins on the bench. I mean, these are guys that like produce when they're on the court, and it allows these their 1 through 5 to
Yep.
take a break.
Yep.
They can go ahead and just cycle through, just take a break. Hey, take a breather. All right, hey,
Hmm.
next one up, next one in. And so, it's what's that old Navy SEAL saying? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah.
And if Indiana can maybe try to harness that, I know it's hard to harness anything in Indiana with the word smooth in it, with all the wrinkles on Rick Carlisle's face. That seems to be how they play. They're just all rigid and just like, "Wah!" They're angry all the time. They all look like Rick Carlisle. But if they could get to a place where they're just like slow, smooth, smooth as fast, we're not going to be able to keep up with the pace of OKC. But what we can do is just kind of slow our game down and then be very just precision like with how we're going to attack the basket, and then most importantly make sure that when we're on the defensive end we're getting that board. We're not
Hmm.
letting them dominate in offensive rebounds and second chance points. We are going
Yeah.
to be the ones to control that.
Yeah.
And
But
but
That's the thing that's the point that I'm getting at. That hasn't been their game.
No, it
For
hasn't
them
been.
to have a chance, they have to change their game. And are they well equipped to be able to play that kind of ball? Because they haven't. They've not had
Right. No,
what got
exactly.
them there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think and to your point, the way they played against the Knicks and how they beat the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals was with that fast pace.
Hmm.
They didn't have to play fast pace. They chose to play fast pace in order to wear down the only five or maybe six players if you count Mitchell Robinson. The only six players they actually had to play.
Yeah.
So they played fast in order to slow them down and wear them out. And
Hmm.
now I don't know how you come out of that mindset and you say, okay, let's readjust now. Which is why to me, like you can go pound for pound with the with the Thunder bench and with the Indiana bench. Honestly, like I would give the edge to the Indiana bench over OKC. But the
Really?
problem is, I mean, it's a slight edge. It's a slight edge only given just how well the Indiana bench has produced so far in this postseason. Nothing against OKC. OKC's got they are well stocked. That cupboard is
Hmm.
ready to go. I mean, there is not a call that they cannot take right now. But if I'm giving a slight edge, I'll give a slight edge to Indiana's bench. And
I don't know.
but
Maybe.
but 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 the problem is that if you uh, just like you said, if you continue to play at this pace, it even if your bench has a slight edge to OKC, that's not I mean, it's not. That's almost nothing because OKC's bench is still well stocked.
Yeah.
So
You're not gonna tire them out if you're gonna try
you're not
playing the
going to tire them
tiring
out
game.
because they're just going to come on to the
Yeah.
court and just like, okay, hey, SGA, hey, Chet, hey, Dort, why don't you take a break? We got this. And it's like, okay, great, no problem. We got this.
Hmm.
So it's almost as if, it really is going to come down to if Indiana can just practice that body control. If they can adopt the just the formula of saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Let's just kind of take our time. Let's go through, our rhythm. Let's not. I think you can keep your rhythm without uh, without going. You can keep your rhythm if you slow down. I think they can do that because the problem isn't their pace. The problem is how they operate with that pace. They're
Yeah.
all over the place. They're dropping passes. They're missing shots. They're just getting too overly excited.
Hmm.
But the on the other side of this OKC team, yeah, I know we say you can't knock a team for beating the teams in front of them. Like, OKC I mean OKC was the best team in the NBA this year, but out of I don't know. I mean, who would you say the had the greater gauntlet to get to here? Indiana or OKC?
I mean, probably OKC. Like, the
Yeah.
West seems like it's a more. First off, I think I already iterated this. I think the West is more close in as far as quality of opponents or like the skill level of all the teams. They're all more close, jam packed together. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you just look at the teams that they beat, like I contrary to what the series ended up looking like, I would not say Minnesota was a scrub team. They were a really good team that just got
Yeah.
outperformed by a really good Oklahoma City. But
Yeah.
that's not something
Yeah.
to sneeze at that you beat Minnesota in the fashion that you beat them. That's a really
Yeah.
good opponent. Um,
Yeah.
they beat, um,
So they opened with Memphis, they went to
yeah, they beat
Denver, and then they
Memphis
beat
first round.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
If you're asking me which one has like more
Yeah.
like trial by fire, is
Hmm.
more like battle tested for to be ready for the finals, it would have to be OKC. And I
Yeah.
go as far as say they're more battle tested because of where they got last year, and they
Hmm.
did such a good job at bringing that into this year into the regular season. Like they knew exactly where they went short last year. They built
Hmm.
onto it all regular season, and they kept that momentum going through the playoffs. So I would say they've gone through the gauntlet since the previous playoffs, and they're more well equipped for the finals now because of all that. I mean, at the end of the day, the Pacers were at the in the Eastern Conference Final last year
Hmm.
too. But I just feel like the quality of opponent that they've gone through just it's missing a touch or two, and I think that's not something that is like a secret. I think
Yeah.
anybody that watches basketball can look at the conference and say the Eastern Conference is like two teams top two teams heavy, and everybody else is kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
Western Conference is all over the place, and you don't know who can win that conference because all the teams stack up really well. So
Yeah.
ultimately, I would say, as a whole, OKC is more has gone through the gauntlet, just conference period.
I would agree, and I asked you because it's kind of getting to my point of, we can sit there and say, apples to oranges, these are the teams, but and nothing like I said against, you can't knock a team for beating who's in front of them, but it's not wrong to sit there and say, okay, then what was your resume? What was your postseason
Yeah,
resume to get here? And outside of that opening series against Memphis, which we
it
both
was
of us we all have our takes on whether or not the opening series even counts because it's four teams fighting for two spots who weren't even good enough to make the playoffs in the first place. So it's it outside of that, you end up uh, going to Denver in the semis,
yeah.
and you go 7 games. They
Mm-hmm.
went 7 games in that
That's
series, and
right.
then what? Was it a day later or 2 days later? They had to go to. They were playing Minnesota,
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
and Minnesota went through their own gauntlet in order to get to where they got to. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as if Minnesota was an easy task. In fact, these two teams were kind of like on parallel roads here. I mean that they're like, hey, we're both young. We're both trying to we're trying to get there. We're both full of piss and vinegar. Let's see who comes out on top.
Right.
And then you have Indiana, who ends up what do they do in the first round? That's right.
They
They
played
beat
the
the
Bucks
old
the
men
first round.
Bucks,
Yeah.
and then they
Nope.
beat the handicap Cavaliers,
Yep. They
and then they
didn't play
went
the
six.
Celtics. They
What's
they
that?
avoided and they ended up avoiding the Celtics, which is
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
cream of the crop of the East right now.
absolutely, yeah. And they end up, beating the handicap Cavaliers in order to play the team that took down Boston.
Yep.
So if we're gonna do just uh, uh, opponent by
Go matchup
attribution
by
here,
matchup. Yeah.
yeah. If we're gonna play that, I would still say OKC had the greater gauntlet,
Yeah.
uh, and so OKC is tested. OKC has and Indiana. I mean, both of these squads were built the right way. So Indiana never mailed it in. Four of their starting five they traded for. So they're
Mm-hmm.
all on the court because they went and they spent the 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 assets in order to bring them in. And then you have OKC that's homegrown outside of Caruso and Hartenstein. I mean, those guys, they were all brought in, but
Right.
it is to me when I look at both of these squads, it just screams to me that while Indiana has had a great run in this postseason, I think my point is OKC has done this from the jump
Yep.
since October.
Mm-hmm.
They have been this way since October, and they have not slowed down.
Yep.
They
Let me
haven't.
let me play let's be devil's advocates. Maybe together we can be devil's advocates as far as why the Pacers could have a chance to win this series. Because I'm not. I said that I wouldn't be surprised if it's a sweep or a gentleman's sweep, but I'm at the same time like they have a chance. So if I had to say something about the Pacers as to why they have a really good chance, would be because they know how to stay in a game and they know how to continue to play the entire what 48 minutes, what 12 to 14, yeah, 48 minutes
Yeah,
of the game. Like they don't like throw the towel in at the fourth quarter if they see it's a 20-point game or whatever. If you
yeah,
let the Pacers stay within 10 points when the game is coming to an end, they have a really good chance of winning that game. They don't know how to give up. That's that would to me would be a good reason of why the Pacers have a chance. They did that against the Knicks perfectly well. What was it, game one when they stole
Hmm.
the win with the by a toe or whatever, however you want to describe it. But that just shows if you give the Pacers a chance, if they can figure out the way that to stay within like arm's reach of the final score, they have a good
Hmm.
chance of stealing some of these games. I was still
Yeah.
giving OKC the nod for being like
Yeah.
more equipped to beat them, but
Hmm.
you watch out for the Pacers if it stays a close game the entire game because they find miraculous ways of getting some of their players just hot at the right moment.
Hmm.
And whenever they are in that mode, they find the hot player, and it could be the Ben. Who was it? Robinson, or who was I'm forgetting who was the player that got like five threes in game one against the Knicks and just went off. My point is, they know how to detect who has the good like stroke is has a good shot going, and they get them the ball no matter who the all star is or who the ball's supposed to be going to. They do a good job at like having I guess you could say some humility about it and just getting the players the ball, the player that is on fire, the ball, and they share the ball and they know how to keep themselves within the game by doing that kind of thing. So I would say the Pacers
Yeah.
still have a chance because of those things.
Yeah. In order to play devil's advocate with you, I would say if OK it I could see OKC losing a handle on this series. And I say losing a handle because I don't think this is a sustained methodology for Indiana. But if you can somehow force SGA, if Indiana can somehow force SGA to to try to be fancy with his ball movement, I think that's going to get him in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to end up having to rely on guys like Jalen Williams in order to get it done. Because even when SGA struggles in driving to the bucket, Chet Holmgren's there, Isaiah Hartenstein is there. So I mean, and I've already seen it a dozen times in the first half of this game where Chet or Isaiah are right underneath the bucket. Oh, I got you,
Mm-hmm.
bro. Don't worry about it. Follow through. That's it. But if in that's why I say it's not sustainable because it's not as if SGA is the only player on the court. SGA
Right.
is so magnanimously effective on the court himself that even if he were to have a bad game, he'd still probably finish with a net positive. That's
Yeah.
how effective his game is.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that, like, I mean, don't put the game, don't force the game in SGA's hands. He's going to think, oh, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Huh, let's do this again. Why not? But if you can get SGA in a way into maybe knocking off his rhythm
Mm-hmm.
to where he's got to be fancy with his ball movement, which isn't really. I mean, it's. I mean, some will call it silky, but it doesn't wow you. It's not like, whoa, what was that? If you put him in a position where you have to force him to step out of his game when it comes to his ball handling, then maybe Indiana has a chance at 2 games, maybe.
2 games. That's all you're giving them. We're over here trying to talk about what they can do to win the series, and you're giving them
I
games
wasn't
at
talking
best.
about Indiana winning the series. You
I'm
talked
trying to
about
see
that.
what Indiana
You
can
talked
do.
about that. All right.
I mean,
Here's
yeah.
how Indiana wins the series. SGA, Dort, and Holmgren all get hurt and they miss the rest of the series. That's how Indiana wins. There you go.
You know what? You know what Indiana needs to do, and I know this is like silly to phrase it this way. Indiana needs to find the equivalent of Oklahoma's Caruso. If you remember the Denver series, for some magical reason, OKC put Caruso on Jokic and he shut him down. And it was not supposed to be a matchup that should work in Caruso's favor, but he had amazing defense against the Joker, and
Hmm.
he helped them win a couple of those games just by his defense. And he's what, a foot and a half shorter than Joker. The
Yeah.
Pacers need to find a player like that that has like some like pesky defensive skills and match them up with
Honestly, you want to know
SGA
who
just
that
to
is?
bother him.
You want to know who that is? That's Thomas Bryant. Thomas
Yeah.
Bryant is one of those. I did not want the Pacers to win the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, let's be honest. All right,
No, we know.
I could care less about the Midwest. I don't care. Drive your horse and buggy. You're the last to get electricity. Hoopla, woody doo. You got Amish presidents. Whatever. Keep them. But Thomas Bryant is one of those really pesky guys that Indiana really doesn't utilize that much. And I
Hmm.
think they have to find a way to bring him back on the court because he's one of those really quick 3-and-D dudes. Like the dude can play phenomenal D. He's very pesky. But
Yeah.
then when he's on the offensive side, hey, he's open. Give him a shot at a three. Give him a tray. You know, let him work. Let him cook.
Yeah.
So I if so I change it up. If there's a way where Rick Carlisle can find a way to work Thomas Bryant into the the lineup, kind of work him in there. He's a center. He's 6'10", so he's kind of like a smaller type center, but he's so quick, and so if there's a way you can kind of work him in there, then absolutely do it. Um, it's not like Miles Turner doesn't get himself into foul trouble enough where you couldn't just put Brian out there anyway.
He might
But
need to.
you're probably going to need to. But I think if there's a way that you can actually work that in, maybe kind of work in like a duo of Obi Toppin and Thomas Bryant on the court together.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about with Indiana is that their bench, it's not just that they're effective in the shooting. They're they're really great at complementing the rest of the squad. So they bring a slightly different skill set to outside of Halliburton and Siakam,
Hmm.
but you put them on the court, they're incredibly effective.
Yeah.
So and if anything, that'll give OKC a different look because the moves are different.
Yeah.
So, but my thing is that if Indiana wants, if Indiana's going to win the series, I can't even say that with a series face. If Indiana's going to win this series, then find a way to work in Thomas Bryant and Obi Toppin on the court at the same time.
There you
Figure
go.
that out.
See, there
Try
you
to
go.
do
See,
that.
there's the silver lining that I was trying to get out of you. Some hope for the Pacers. As much as you puked in your mouth a little bit as you said it, there's a little bit of hope there for the Pacers.
I should have the gif of Jim Carrey about to throw up after he sees Harry uh,
Yeah.
kiss Lauren Holly. So
Yeah.
um,
Let me ask you something, and this is more like the current situation that we're faced with Oklahoma City and Indiana being the two teams that in the finals. They're officially small market teams. I don't understand why OKC is a small market team. I guess they're a small market team. Okay, Oklahoma City seems like a pretty, decent
no, that's why it's called
representation.
the Little River Walk because
Yeah,
it's
I guess.
smaller than San Antonio. So
Well, but my point on the question is, how do you feel the attention behind this matchup is going to go for these finals with because it's always like a big team like David versus Goliath, like
mhm.
the big city market team against some like random team that got hot, like Milwaukee got hot against
Yeah,
Phoenix, which is a big market team. Like they pulled out a championship doing that kind of thing. But now we
yeah.
have two small market teams. Do you feel like there's going to be a lack of interest for the finals, or is you think it's good for the sport for the NBA that two small market teams are at the finals right now? What are your thoughts about that part?
I'm going to give you a headline, and then I'm going to give you why I think it will be good. The headline is NBA MVP goes up against the warrior who slayed David, who slayed Goliath. Okay, so and then it's going to be, it is going to be a good thing for the NBA because what we're being sold or what they think what the NBA thinks they're selling us is that the product on the court is a good thing. that everything that they're doing in order to try to make these super teams is a great thing. Now we're in the NBA Finals where we have two teams who, one, did not have to go through some kind of a sellout process. They didn't tank. There wasn't anything like that. But on top of that, these are two teams where, yeah, you have the NBA MVP, but SGA is just now beginning that kind of stardom aspect of his career. Like, and then you have the Pacers, who are Phil. I mean, I wouldn't call Halliburton a superstar, but Halliburton's I mean, he is very much a presence to be dealt with, especially in the way that the Indiana roster is constructed. And
Mm-hmm.
when if I if I'm Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA, I'm looking at this saying, okay, this is awesome. We have two teams who did it the right way. They either had homegrown talent or they leveraged their assets in order to bring the right pieces in. And
Yeah.
that's how you should do it. It wasn't like, bringing in one superstar and he brought his friends. No, uh, this is an amalgam of just Indiana's an amalgam of pieces. That's all it is. And they figured out how to work together. And no one, I mean, obviously, no one can coach this team better than Rick Carlisle can. He's
Yeah.
he's he's honestly the pacer whisperer. He's the only guy. I mean, I don't know if his wrinkles are given pep talks at halftime, but they seem to be working, and he's really just bringing this team together. And then you got Mark Daigneault, who came over to OKC and coached in the G League when they brought Billy Donovan over from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two teams who got here on two different trajectories, and neither one of them were about flopping and tanking. Neither one of them. They did it the
Right.
right way. I think this is really good for the NBA because for so long we're looking at these teams like NBA is not a team sport. Well, look, we have two teams in NBA Finals that are the epitome of a team. These two teams are the epitome of a team sport.
Yeah.
Whether the starting five or coming off the bench, they are all they are very much a team. Both of
Yeah.
these.
I think there's two sides of this. One of I agree with the side you're saying. For the sake of the NBA, it's a good thing that they have two small market teams being represented in the finals. For the sake of the entertainment factor, I have a feeling this is not going to go very well. This is probably going to be one of the lesser watched finals, like as far as viewership, because there's not the attraction of one the big city names like the household market, the big flashy Golden State Warriors, Celtics, Lakers. Those teams, they have a big viewership and people love. There's like an attraction to them, but at the same time, there's not the established dominant all star for the first time since I can remember in the last like 4 years, maybe since the Milwaukee Phoenix finals that there's not a like an established big name on one of the rosters. I think that's gonna go badly for the attention factor because people I, you just said like it's good because it's not going to be like a one the sport will transition away from this is a one man sport where like really one person matters. I think it's still like, for fans they still want that. I think they want to have like the flashy LeBrons and the Steph
Mm-hmm.
Currys and the Jason Tatum. Like they want to have that flashy one person in the finals, and they don't have that. We can say what we want about SGA and the Siakam. Like they're not. Let's be honest. They're not the close to being even faces of the franchise or of the league at all.
Of the
And I
league,
think
yeah.
that yeah, they're not there. They're not they're not bringing that viewership because of their name. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that is going to cause like a lack of interest from the basketball fanatics because everything still rotates around players and players have their own shoes and like people that follow basketball like buy the shoes of a player. They don't buy a shoe, they buy the player. Like it's all about the player, and that part of the entertainment that the NBA has really focused on empowering for better or for worse of the single player and the empowerment of the single player of the like the face. That's not there.
Hmm.
I think that's gonna kind of backfire a little bit on it, but for the sake of the sport as a whole, being able to say, hey, like, hey, we have parity, we have like teams that came out of nowhere that can still make the finals. If you're pitching it as like a true like organic basketball fan, that's really good for basketball. But if you're pitching it as a sport is still an entertainment and you're trying to bring in viewers and trying to bring in money, I think that's where they're gonna fall short on that. I think that's
Yeah.
the negative side of the small market teams.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you, but what I and if it's exciting, it'll be exciting for the fan bases of these teams, and honestly, that's really what it comes down to is being able to have have enough parity in your sport
Hmm.
where even the teams that don't ever really get to experience this actually get to come together and just have a great time with it. Because we can mock small market teams all we want. No one spends money on their teams quite like small market fan bases do.
That's true.
I mean, because it's what they live for. That's it. That's what they have.
Hmm.
So, but I want to move from trying to figure out if this is going to be an exciting series to what has already proven is going to be a phenomenal finals. And
You want to talk
that
about
is
ice?
I'm talking about NHL, baby. I'm talking about Stanley Cup finals. I'm talking about Panthers Oilers rematch from
Yeah,
last season. I don't
yeah.
know if anyone saw the game last night, but I was, of course, glued to the game. I could not get enough of it. And yes, was I disheartened when Edmonton went down 3-1 early on in the second period? Yes. But then I was reminded of something. The angels, the heavenly angels, came from above and they descended upon my head and my heart. And they reminded me of the trials and tribulations that while Florida has gone through, so has Edmonton. And the Oilers themselves have risen above from multiple multi-goal deficits in the game to only overcome them in this postseason. And then my heart was enlightened with hope. And then that's exactly what happened.
Are you writing
A minute
haikus on the
seven,
fly right now? What is going on with this?
a minute 17. This is my revelation, okay? I'm sharing a personal piece of myself with you, and you're laughing in my face? You're throwing my revelation in my face?
It's just very poetic. It's very poetic right now. I'm like, I feel like I need to go.
This is how I
plow-
feel about the
I need to go
series.
plow through a wall right now, a brick wall. Like JB, talk to me about hockey. We're
And you
breaking through
should.
this
This is exactly what I'm trying to invoke inside of all of us.
wall.
And a minute 17 after Florida went up 3-1, what happens? It's 3-2 Florida. And then you go into the third period, it's 3-3, and I'm thinking, okay, they got this. And what's interesting about last night's game was Florida, okay, if you had to rank the nastiest teams, I mean just in form of speed and just pure aggression and
Hmm.
pure I don't give an F vibes. It's Florida and then it's Edmonton. And I have to give a quick shout out to the refs in that game. They called an incredible game. There were, I swear to goodness, there were guys that got flipped over sticks and landed back first on the ice, and they didn't blow a whistle. They just let the thing go. And it was awesome. Guys were getting checked harder than before. They were getting back checked. Like it was just like no look checks. The refs were like, boys will be boys. Let them play. And
I
it
didn't
was
see anything.
it was such a it was the flow was great. The game was great. But I'll tell you this: Florida was so fast paced and they were so aggressive in the hard line in the first probably 26 minutes of the game. And they were dominating Edmonton on both sides of the ice. If Edmonton had the puck, then Florida was there to hardline. If Florida was on their side, they were hardlining. They were hardlining the same, and then they were so efficient on their shots. When they were up 3-1, by the time they scored their third goal, they only took 8 shots on goal. Edmonton had 1 goal at the time, and they had, I think, 15 or 16 shots on goal. So Florida was so efficient, which isn't a surprise when you have three of the five active postseason scorers on Florida alone, and Verhage, Perry, Bennett. When you have those three guys active and they're leading, postseason scoring on the same squad, it's not a surprise at all. And no disrespect to Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner was the only reason Edmonton stayed in that game last night because after Florida was very efficient, they got furious with their shot taking, especially in the second period. And around the 16th minute, going into the second period, the pace started to shift. Edmonton started to really gain their ground. Edmonton was just outpacing Florida at a furious pace. And then you get to the third period, and then they tie it 3-3, and then we get to overtime. Now, before overtime, in the third period, it was absolutely nuts how it seemed like Edmonton was playing with a sixth man on the ice for like 5 minutes. It was crazy. There was no power play. Edmonton was just absolutely out of their minds, hair on fire, crazy. And it seemed like Florida was just going to just tie her up. And Bobrovsky was just going to let one go. And Bobrovsky, look, he was lucky last night, but he was so good in the net as it is anyway. These are the two best goalies in hockey going face to face. And I cannot stress this enough. These games, and especially last night's game, went only as furious as both Florida and Edmonton were with their shot taking. Florida in the second period, Edmonton in the third period. These goalies deserve all the credit in the world. It was absolutely asinine how great they played. But when you get to the first overtime and you're seeing that Edmonton's slowing down now, here comes Florida. Florida's now picking up the pace. And you're thinking, Edmonton missed their shot. And then, like a miracle of all miracles, at 18 minutes within the first overtime, Florida gets called for a delay of game. And for those of you who don't understand how you get a delay of game in hockey, it's when the offensive player driving the puck to his side of the ice ends up hitting the puck over the glass. That's what causes a delay game, and then that causes a power play. At that moment, I tweeted, this could be huge. And not a minute later, does none other than Leon Draisaitl shoot the game-winning sudden death goal to take game one with 20 seconds left on the clock in first overtime. Folks, if last night's game is a preview to what the rest of this series is going to be, forget about it. Forget about it. This is going to be another 7-game series, and it's going to be lit. It is going to be, if you thought last year's Stanley Cup Finals was awesome and just on fire after going 7 games, imagine this one. You're going to wish this one went 9 games because Florida took last year's trophy. They took it.
Yep.
But this Edmonton team is so loaded. It is absolutely loaded. There's not a rotation that Chris Knobloch, the head coach for Edmonton, who, by the way, looks like a tolerable Steve Kerr. Chris Knobloch, there is not a rotation Chris Knobloch could put on the ice that could fail him. But if Edmonton's going to win this series, it's going to take seeing 29 and 97 together on the ice the entire time. That's Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid. You need to have those two centers on the ice at all times. Because when you have Carter Verhage, when you got Corey Perry, when you got Matthew Tkachuk, when you got Sam Bennett, for Florida on the ice running rampant, you're going to need those two guys there to hold down the fort. And don't forget key guy Frederick for Edmonton. He almost was the one that came through last night for Edmonton to win the game. He's going to be the X factor in this series as long as Edmonton and Stuart Skinner can keep Florida on their heels. But my goodness, what a game! What a
So
game!
what are you gonna lock in, JB? I'm getting Edmonton and 7 vibes from you for the
Edmonton at
Stanley Cup.
7. Edmonton at 7.
There you go. See, and for y'all might think JB is some Canadian guy. He is one of the most patriotic American guys that I know, and
You
he's
damn
over here
right I am.
he's over here cheering for the Canadians to win the Stanley Cup. But I mean, I feel like maybe it's short term because they matched up against each other last year in 7 games, but it just feels like there's some deeper hate between the Florida and Edmonton, and I just feel like they're just gonna beat each other up nonstop for seven
Well, you
games.
got to
I
think
would,
about it too. This is Florida's third year in a row in the finals.
yeah,
Third year in a row. And so, if anybody who's trying to look for another sports comp for it, think of it as Kansas City. Think of it as the Chiefs. This is their third year there in a row. They're 1-1 with it. After everything I watched last night, based on what we saw last season in the Stanley Cup Finals, when Florida was able to overcome because they had more endurance, last night proved just how deep Edmonton actually is. So these guys, I mean, the starters don't have to stay on the ice for 30 minutes at a time. They can take a break.
hmm
Chris Knoblauch has options to be able to supplement the guys in the play on the ice in order to keep guys like Draisaitl, McDavid, keep them fresh. And so it's just very, very I can't even think of the word, but it's reassuring. It's very reassuring if you're an Edmonton fan, knowing that you don't have to have, Hyman and Kane, McDavid, Draisaitl, you don't, Parklosen. You don't have to have them on the ice the whole time. You can rest them. And Chris Knoblauch has tapped into something here for this season to be able to lead these guys to the promised land.
Love it. That was beautiful, JB. You know what? You sold me. Edmonton and 7 it is. I like. I was hoping for 7. I guess I was leaning towards Edmonton and 7 either way. I want to see Canada win the Stanley Cup finally again, and 7 games of hockey in the Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah, they need to win it. It
It sounds
belongs in
amazing.
Canada. Let's give them something before America takes them over. Before they are seceded to America. Let's give Canada one last hurrah.
And then they'll become part of the U.S. Like, we got the Stanley Cup back in the U.S. one way or
Yes.
another.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Uh, uh, Lastly, do we need to check in on baseball real quick? I feel like there's been some major news that at least I've seen. I stayed in touch with my Major League Baseball while I
Oh,
was away. I stayed in touch.
there have been some news.
Let me tell you, the biggest news that I'm tracking, or the biggest ones that I cared about, is the fact that Colorado won their first series of the season.
Not
Woo-hoo!
only that, they're on a 3-game winning streak.
Careful.
3-game winning streak. In
They're
the
only
month of June, only 2 teams have 3 wins. That's the San Diego Padres and the Colorado Rockies. Don't call it a comeback, folks. Don't call it a comeback.
They're only
Don't say I
35
didn't
games
tell you
behind.
Colorado was going to run the gamut and take over the NL West. Don't say I didn't say it, because I never did say it. That's not going to
No,
happen. But
he didn't mean it.
I think it's good for baseball if the Rockies go on a win streak, because the last thing baseball needs is a team worse than last year's White Sox. That's the last thing we need. We don't need that. We
This
don't
can't
need
be a
that.
repeat. We can't have this a trend that we have like the record constantly being broken for bad teams, and like a team has to try so hard to be so bad when you have
Yeah.
162 games to be mediocre. Yeah, we can't
Yeah.
have crappy baseball for 162 games. But besides that, what else? What are you tracking? What is your big story in the MLB?
Whew. One of the big stories is the Ballsack A's. I'm sorry, Sacramento. They in their last 21 games, they are 1-21. No, 1-20. The last 21, they are 1-20. And they have gone from second place in the AL West to dead last by a mile in
I mean, we
that three
expected
week
that, right? We
stretch.
expected them to be at the bottom of their division.
We expected the Angels to do that because
No, I would
trust
have
me,
said more the
because
A's.
look, I mean, you can have a left fielder, right fielder, center fielder, but you never have an Angel in the outfield, especially with the Angels. It's not happening. So Christopher Lloyd's not out there kicking balls around. Uh,
You know
I
what? You know
will
what else I'm
say
tracking? You know what
what
else I'm tracking? Shohei started pitching warm-up pitches
he did.
pre-game. He
He
started
did.
warming up. What was my take? I still remember my take at the beginning of the season.
Your
Shohei's gonna
take
be
was he was going to
pitching.
warm up and he was going to blow his elbow out and be out for the season.
No, no. My take was that Shohei was gonna be pitching by the trade deadline, and he was gonna be a Cy Young candidate by the end of the year. I'm still on track. It's gonna be an exciting July. We're in June now. July is gonna be pretty for Shohei.
Yeah. One thing I am looking at, Baltimore Orioles. They've won 6 in a row. They are 8-2 in their last 10. Uh, this team might be on the up and up. And I only say that because this is I think that 3-game win streak they went on earlier last week was the first 3-game win streak they had all season. And so now they've continued it. They've won 6 games in a row. Let's not forget, Baltimore's loaded. They on the offensive side of the ball and the defense side of the ball, they are loaded. You have
Just ignore the
Adley,
pitching.
you have Gunner. Like, this is not a team to trifle with, offensively speaking. It's the pitching that's the problem. Now, if the offense can get to a place where it starts producing, maybe, just
Yeah.
maybe.
And their
Remember,
pitching, you're gonna ignore their
remember,
pitching?
remember the 5th of November. No, that movie sucked. Remember
The
both
Titans?
the Nationals and the Braves. The Braves especially.
Yep.
The year the Braves won the World Series, which we'll get to the Braves in just a second, because I'm having less and less faith in this year's team than I ever have. So we'll but the Braves in 2021, the year they won the World Series, they were below 500 at the trade deadline.
Yep.
They went and got Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, and they still didn't reach 500 until I think August 8th. And then by August 15th, they took over the NL East. And then they went on to win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Baltimore is going to do that because I don't see the Yankees. And quite frankly, the Blue Jays and the Rays, if I'm a Yankee fan, they're scaring me right now because they seem to be kind of on a same tear, a same pace. Aaron Judge is going to need to keep up that 400 rhythm in order to keep them in the games. But let's not count out Baltimore just yet because it's only June 5th. And this is a marathon. And I remember a great Greek poet by the name of Forrest Gump, who when asked, "Why are you running?" and he said, "I just felt like running." Maybe the Orioles are Forrest Gump. They just felt like running. Maybe they'll take a run. Maybe Mike Elias will decide, hey, Now I'm gonna bring in some starters here this year, and we're gonna have a frontline guy. It's gonna happen.
No,
I'm not saying it will happen,
it's
but
not
if the
gonna
Orioles
happen.
keep on this pace, if
No.
they keep on a pace where they go 8-2, 7-3 of at every 10 games, you wait until mid-July. I want to revisit this All-Star break.
We
And if the
will.
Orioles, if the Orioles are even 3 games below 500, I'm going to tell you Mike Elias is going all in.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one of my early take was with the Orioles being like a sneaky team that was gonna like make a push for the division. I jumped ship on that a month ago. I'm not getting back on that wagon. You would have to
Not
convince.
falling for that again.
No, you have to give me one of those NHL like haikus to get me back on that wagon. It's not happening this time. Not today,
An
JB. Not.
NHL haiku. I'm putting that on a T-shirt. Uh,
What
but
was my last? Oh, my last thing. Can we enlighten everyone, JB, on who the current home run leader is for the MLB?
it is nothing but Big Dumper himself, Cal Raleigh. 24 bombs. And
Not
look,
Shohei, not Judge.
not
Cal Ra-
Judge, Cal Raleigh. And look, before anybody sits there and wants to spout some disrespect on my boy Big Dumper, let me dump some knowledge on you. This, for one, Cal Raleigh has shown the ability to have superior power in the MLB before. Previous seasons, this is not like a Brady Anderson breakout where he has like 57 homers. And you're like, hey, what part of your body did you shoot up the steroids? No, Cal Raleigh absolutely has the ability to hit jacks. He hits bombs. But what's crazy about this season, and I'm very curious to see if this holds up, he's batting 260 right now. He's in
Mhm.
the 260 range. And he's usually hitting 220, 230 throughout an entire season. If Cal Raleigh can get through the entire season and finish at like 255, if he can finish at 260 and he has like 50 bombs, 55, because he's on pace for what? I think 58 homers, I think it is.
Mhm.
If he can if he can stay on that pace,
You putting on my
no
MVP watch?
disrespect, no disrespect, no dis just shut your beautiful mouth. No disrespect to Aaron Judge, but I do not see an issue with giving Kyle Rowley some MVP votes.
Some not winning.
Especially if hey, I said shut it. I I said shut it. I asked for a piping hot bowl of shut it stew, and this doesn't taste like it.
Give me a haiku. Give
The
me a haiku, JB.
Cal Raleigh, for one, is a catcher. That is the hardest position in baseball. I
Mhm.
would say there's no harder position in all of sports than being a catcher for a Major League Baseball team, the starting catcher. It is one of the hardest positions to play, especially in baseball. If Cal Raleigh can stay on this pace and Seattle wins the division, I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP. Shut it. I'm saying there's a good case for him to get votes for it.
Wow. I mean, Dak Prescott also got MVP votes 2 years ago.
Dak Prescott can suck and
So,
he
it's
can
the
choke on Chucky
same.
soup with his mom.
There's no trophy for second place in sports. There is not one trophy for second place in sports. I'm just saying. But yeah,
Yeah, have you
that's
ever been to Jerry Jones's home? That's all it's full of is
second
wild
places.
card recipient,
Division
division
winner.
winner.
Uh, let's
He
wrap.
has Jerry Jones has a trophy that says almost won on Romo's fumble. So there's
Almost 2 inches from winning. 2 inches from winning beating the
yeah.
Seahawks
And
trophy.
Jerry's like, I wish I had those 2 inches. I'd scored better with those ladies.
let's wrap this up by having the breaking news of the day, and we're gonna hit all the sports today because we're gonna talk about the breaking news from the NFL that is a big phew for all Steelers fans because Aaron Rodgers finally decided to come out of his man cave and sign with the team, and he is now a Steeler on a 1-year deal.
The
Super Bowl
ayahuasca has spoken.
Super Bowl bound for the Steelers this year, JB. Conference finals, conference.
No, no, no. Aaron Aaron
Give me
Rodgers
a
is going. Aaron Smith and not Aaron, Arthur Smith is is an offensive coordinator who has a completely. We always talk about spectrums. Okay, let's talk about offensive scheme spectrums. If there was a spectrum for offensive schemes, Arthur Smith is on this end, Aaron Rodgers is on this end. Arthur Smith lives in the play action. Arthur Smith lives in the run game. Aaron Rodgers lives in the backfield and shotgun, waiting to gunsling it 60 yards down the field because he thinks every down is halftime, is the minute before the end of the game against the Redskins. This marriage makes no sense. And
You know what I saw that was hilarious? You know, the thing that I saw that was so hilarious, like, oh, they signed Aaron Rodgers and they have DJ Metcalf. All the Steelers are needing is just a number 2 receiver. Maybe they should call Dallas and inquire on George Pickens.
Yeah, who the hell cares if you have DK Metcalf? How does that make any sense to get? You've had DK Metcalf for 2 months and you just got Aaron Rodgers? Don't tie this up. Don't piss on. Please do not piss in my cup and call it lemonade. All right? I know exactly what this is. This is you trying to put a positive spin on a dumb move. This is an absolutely just asinine move. Aaron Rodgers made more sense in New Orleans than he made sense in Pittsburgh.
But Pittsburgh's the only team that wanted him. Ultimately, that's the only team that wanted him, which says a lot about either the Steelers or
this is going to be so toxic.
Give me the over under on the wins for the Steelers this year. Do they won what 9, 8, 10 games last year? Over under this year. Is he going to cause them games and they're going to lose games?
I mean, putting in my algorithm the Aaron Rodgers effect. 10 wins.
Games. I would put them at 8. I think he's going to cost the Steelers 2 games with his age. I think they're going to digress or take a step back.
No, I don't think so because I think what Aaron Rodgers and look, we all know Arthur Smith, okay? Daddy, created FedEx. Arthur Smith couldn't even deliver himself a win with a play action. So, let's not give Arthur Smith that much credit here. And honestly, I don't understand. What is it with Mike Tomlin? I'm sorry, Omar Epps. No, I'm sorry, Mike Tomlin. What is it with Mike Tomlin trying to bring in offensive coordinators that are so vanilla, that inspire zero confidence? What is this? Why? Like, you can't win every game on defense because you have to score a freaking point. You have to drive the ball down the field. You don't get, morale points in the NFL for a tie or keeping a team below 10 points. You have to score touchdowns. You have to. Enough with the shenanigans.
So you're telling me Aaron Rodgers is going to be a wash when it comes to how they did last year? Because they won 10 last year. You're telling me he's just going to be like par for the course?
I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers won't do any worse than the combination of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
So locking it in at 10 wins. So you
9.5. 9.5 wins.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, 9.
I really don't have a lot of confidence. I just don't.
I know. You're not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers.
You think this is how this conversation went? Rooney went to Rodgers. Hey, you want to come over here? You want to play football with us? Aaron's like, I don't know. I'm in my sweat tent right now. Let me get back with you. All right, I'll wait out here for you. Hey, Rooney. What's up? I'll come, but I ain't listening to Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to him. Don't worry about it. You think that's
Good
how the
luck.
conversation went? No,
Good luck
that's
with
not how the
that.
conversation went at all.
No.
Mike Tom, I just for a oh my, I'm putting the cigar down for a franchise that that has put up with zero shenanigans when it comes to their players, and as they had Antonio Brown, who was arguably one of their like top 5 receiver in their franchise ever.
Yeah.
They got rid of him in a
Mm-hmm.
heartbeat because he's a pain in the ass. You, what is it about Aaron Rodgers that tells you this is different? This reminds me of Dumb and Dumber. I'm bringing up Dumb and Dumber again in the same episode when Lloyd and Harry are driving and they see Gas Man on the side of the road, and he says, "I don't usually trust my instincts on this one. Saddle up, partner." Like this is like this. I he's like, I don't usually, but I'm gonna trust my instincts on this one. Like this, I honestly don't understand what this is. I don't understand. I don't get
It's
it.
Aaron Rodgers not wanting to retire and him wanting to like latch onto a team that'll give him a starting job. And the Steelers are so desperate they'll take the quarterback in the corner of Central. That's it.
I
That's all it comes down to.
I'm beyond. That's just I don't understand. I get it in terms of trying to get the best players in there. Who are their quarterbacks right now besides
Him,
him?
Mason Rudolph, and then they have another. It's between
I
Aaron Rodgers and
I
Mason
know they
Rudolph.
drafted a guy, Will Howard. That's who they drafted.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Why not just
That
roll the dice with Will Howard?
I don't know.
Why not? Will
I don't know.
Howard came from a Chip Kelly scheme in Ohio State where you opened up the run game by going vertical. I'm sorry, that's what play action is. That's what that is. Will Howard fits Arthur Smith's scheme way better than Aaron Rodgers does.
Here's a hot take. Will Aaron Rodgers finish the season as the starter for the Steelers?
Yeah, because they're paying him what, like a bajillion dollars for 1 year?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't seen the
They're not gonna
contract, but
look. If they didn't bench Russell Wilson's lame duck butt, when they were on the 80 game losing streak at the end of the season, they're not gonna bench Aaron Rodgers.
maybe he put a no bench clause in his contract. You cannot bench me this year.
If you bench me, I swear I'm smoking ayahuasca in front of the entire team. I swear I'm building a smoking tent in the middle of the locker room.
Yeah.
We're gonna sweat together.
All right, JB, let's get out of here. What did you smoke today?
I was smoking a Arturo Fuente Grand Reserve, and I was drinking a Bullet 95 proof rye.
I
So
do
this
like some
was
Bullet.
a gift from the parents to us as coaches for the Little League team this year.
Oh, nice. That's a nice gift. That's a really nice
Yeah.
gift from
Mm.
sports stuff, especially from
What were you
parents.
drinking?
I have so many bottles, but I just had to bring back my Knob Creek because it's just so good. The smoky, mapley like taste of it is like sweet. It's a little sticky, and
Yeah.
you guys saw I smoked it out a little bit more extra. It's just so good. I really liking that bottle, so I had to bring it back, and I'm almost done with it. But that's what I smoked today. JB, we're done. We're out of
We're
here.
done. Guys.
Welcome back, Manny. Welcome to the NBA Finals.
Yes.
JB, tell everybody where they can find full episodes, audio, and clips.
You can find full episodes of Box Scores and Bourbon on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, video and audio, and additional content at BSB Sports 24, Instagram, TikTok, and X.
Mm-hmm.
Please follow us on X. I am tweeting or Xing, I guess is the term now. I am Xing furiously on 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 Twitter now, especially during the Stanley Cup Finals. So
Mm-hmm.
follow us, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a comment. We love exchanging banter with you guys. And until next time, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers.